And we're recording. All right, so today we're talking stairs and ramps, really switching gears, guys. I know in exercise 3, I just asked you to be super creative. And of course, love seeing the way that some of you have really started to add your creative flow to this. And hopefully I see a lot of progress, something that normally wouldn't be done on the drafting table. There's just an explosion of much more to be exploited, I think. But in our case, we're going to switch gears just a little bit, right? We're going to turn the right side of our brains off and go back to the left side. However, it's okay to have creative stairs as well. But I do want to start to get a little bit more architectural. I do want to start to get into a little bit more scale, right? So in that idea, we're going to be basically just making a stair, right? Now this stair is going to be floating, as you'll see, and I do actually have an example where I just do a time lapse of a stair that I created in during class in about 20 minutes. So I'll break it down step by step, right? And essentially we'll just go over how to make some stairs, rails, and ramps, right? So nothing too shabby about that. But as you guys know, it is eventually going to go into that model. For the love of God and all that is holy. Do not put them together yet. Don't worry, we'll put them together in assignment 5, right? Where there's definitely some special instructions that we need to take, and we'll get there probably the day we get back from spring break. As you guys know, we're going to eventually laser cut these things, but I do want to allow some time to, of course, finish exercise 3, and now finish exercise 4. I want 2 complete models, so that way when we get back, we can put them together, right? So definitely allow yourself some time to do that, right? And if you haven't completed exercise 3, definitely get done with that first, right? Don't try to work, don't be a hero, don't try to do 2 assignments at once, even though I suppose it's technically possible. However, so the next operation of our observation tower will require refinement and diagramming as we continue. However, before we just start putting things into cohesive objects, let's focus only on the circulation, which is of course what we're talking today. Stairs, ramps, rails, all have varying shapes and sizes and different ways of being made depending on the forms that are chosen, especially in composition to the hand drafting. For this project, we will use a simple 6 to 12 inch steps ratio, and for ramps, we'll use a 1 to 12 ratio for any ramps that you may choose. Landings, of course, at a minimum of their width. So we do start to get a little bit more architectural, and the best way that I can explain that, guys, is, well, if you have ramps or stairs, and it's a certain thickness, let's say it's 3 feet. So these are my, and you'll definitely learn this later, and you'll probably even see it in the architecture that you go through, but if this is a width of 3, or 4, or 5, the landing itself, by minimum, has to be that as well. Does that make sense? That also has to be at least 3. Now, if this is 4, is that correct?
No.
Exactly. My landing has to be 4 as well. Or longer. Potentially it could be longer. But at least architecturally, we do have to meet some requirements. Obviously, we'll talk about it when we get to that part. But step 1 are wonderful ambiguous steps, right? And the reason I do this, guys, just to kind of reiterate, at other programs, at other schools, they kind of just hand you this paper and say, okay, we'll see you in 2 weeks, right? Good luck. And they give you very vague instructions. At least what I'd like to do is at least explain those instructions, because I would have loved that, especially at Texas Tech and learning these programs. I probably wouldn't have made such bad habits with this program either. Anyway, step 1, make sure abstraction is saved. Perhaps hide in the same file. Good idea. So let's go and hide some of that stuff, or just move it off to the side and hide it. Sweet. Now I have some locked items, so I might have to type in unlock. Oop, I need to spell unlock correct. And get rid of some things. I like to start fresh. However, we don't necessarily have to start completely fresh. I guess I could use this guy, right? Just this bounding box. After all, why work harder when I could just work smarter? There's that bounding box I need. Boop. And we'll take that one. Sweet. So I'll go ahead and copy that one so that I don't have to make it potentially all over again. And now we'll go ahead and hide. Now the reason I want to kind of keep these in the same project is, well, as you guys know, in exercise 5, we're going to put them together. But again, do not put them together yet, because there will be some special instructions. So let's zoom into that a little bit better. Boop. All right. And we'll start after building stairs. To be fair, you might want to either draw them in plan first, or I don't know, you could wing it too. I mean, there's definitely something about this program that you might be a visual learner and three-dimensional sort of viewee, or some people, they need to see it in plan first and those kinds of things. So I'll let that be up to you. But for us, we basically just need to make stairs and ramps all the way to the very top. As you guys know, we're going to be making an observation deck. So there is actually a couple of requirements. However, we just completed step 1. Okay, perhaps hide in the same file. Number 2, start using the top, front, and side views to create the necessary profiles. Well, dang, that's pretty vague, but what does it mean by necessary profiles? Well, this is definitely what I mean. So in our case, I'm going to explode this because I'm going to use some of the lines. So explode, and that's going to turn it into these very basic lines. And as you can see, I even have some doubles in there. So I'm going to subtract some of my doubles before I forget, and make sure that I don't have any doubles there. I'm going to go with, you know, minimum stairs usually have to be 3 feet. I'm going to go with 4 feet. I mean, go big or go home, right? So offset, 4 feet, enter. Quite literally click on it, and bam. Quite literally I can start to potentially make these stairs. Now, if you're kind of viewing it right now, it's kind of the plan view, right? It's been flattened on the ground. And essentially I need to start making a necessary profile. In my case, we're going to use 6-inch risers and 12-inch treads. Now, in real life, you would use 7 1/4 and 11 3/4, right? So, I mean, don't get me wrong, we want to be architectural, but you know, for those of us who haven't taken any design courses, you wouldn't necessarily know that yet. But to make it simple, we're going to go with 6-inch risers and 12-inch treads. That makes the math a little bit easier. And if we have 50 feet high, how many steps will we need? Anybody? If they're all 6-inch risers, how many steps will we need all the way to 50 feet? Thank you, yes. We'll just times it by 2, right? That's what I mean by it makes the math a little bit simpler. To be fair, once we get in Revit, we can do this stuff pretty automatically. That is pretty interesting. But we're not there yet. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a line. Again, I kind of want to offset 4 feet, but I can also just draw 4 feet, right? So 4 feet. I can hold shift to make sure that is 4 feet, and I can use that point to at least get started. Now in my case, I made sure perpendicular was on, and I don't know who needs to hear this, but please don't ever check near, because it can wreak havoc, right? I mean, pretty much everything is near, if you will. So for instance, check this out. Near, 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 near. Oh, and there's the endpoint that I want. Near, 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 near. And very often somebody can accidentally hit this near and think that it was an endpoint. So be very careful with that near. Anyway, it's kind of a weird word when you say that over and over again. Anyway, so let's get a profile going. So in my case, it says I might want to use a couple of different views. So in my case, I might want the right or the front view to really start grasping this plan, right? And of course, the top view, as you can see, is kind of our plan view, almost as if we started with the landing being the ground itself. And if it helps, you can make yourself a box and type in box. And just make yourself a box of, I don't know, 6 inches, right? We'll move that down, and yes, I should probably be putting this in the correct layer. I think right now, oh, I've got an exercise 3 columns. That's not the right layer. So let's go with exercise 4 and go with stairs. This will definitely become important as you start to differentiate between stairs, rails, ramps, and anything you want. Those may very well in the future have different line weights, so it would be smart to have them. In my case, I can select that box, right click, and of course change the object layer. In my case, I'll go with a gray today, but I think orange is a little easier to see, especially in the recording. So there's our landing. Now, theoretically, I guess you'd have the whole plane, right? It'd be something more like box. Go with this all the way over here. Oh, make sure you double click on your layer, box. But I noticed this helped some students last time, so I'm gonna go with -6 inches. Yes, it really goes down. How amazing is that? And we don't necessarily need that one. In our case, we do want to start that polyline. So yes, I'm going to use polyline, which is a multiple line. It's just basically continuous. I'm going to make sure I'm in my stairs, and I'm going to use my starting point right here. And as you can imagine, well, this isn't going to be the view, right? That obviously I just want to go up, so that's okay, and it's going to work for that view. But this view might actually be a little bit better, right, in terms of how I want to draw. So 6 inches, enter. I'm going to hold shift, click. It's going to ask for the next line. Okay, great. In my case, I want to make sure that I go this way. How much do I want to go? 12, thank you. So 12, I'm going to hold shift in this view. That's what's going to cause this. Otherwise, if I don't hold shift, you kind of see what it's doing over there. It's kind of like going this way. But I do want a flat profile. Now I could do this indefinitely. I could just type in 6 inches, shift, 12 inches, shift, right? And I could do that all day. Or I can work smarter, right? I can take that exact point and multiply it very easily and get the exact number of steps. I don't know about you, but that's already saving me twice the amount of time than it is to draw it. And simply I can take each of these and join them. So J, enter, or just type in and join. That will connect these, right? However, if they're not touching, they will not connect. So just, some word of advice. And as you can imagine, well, now we got somewhat, but right now they're kind of paper thin stairs, right? Perhaps we envision that they're solid or concrete or at least some sort of mass, right, if you will. However, we can continue drawing, right? Maybe this is kind of where it stops, or maybe I need one more riser before we get to that landing. So I'll go ahead and join those. And sweet. The next thing I can do is actually create that massing. So I'm basically just gonna draw that one, basically lining it up. And this is why you can't just go off of one view, right? Even though it looks correct here, it's not correct there. So be very careful. In my case, the way to mitigate that is always just holding shift in the view that you started the drawing. If you hold shift, in my case, my bad, let's try that again. Maybe I'm selecting the wrong point. Boop. I guess you can do it in 3 dimensions too. And that gets the job done as well. But offsetting, typically we do about 6 inches worth of concrete. So I'm going to say 6 inches, go down. Don't actually need that other piece, but hopefully you're starting to see kind of a stair, right? You're starting to not only see the top of the stair, but of course the bottom of the stair too. And again, if this is absolutely confusing, don't worry guys. We'll hit you hard with stairs and ramps and rails also in D1 or definitely G2, especially with Professor Bosoff. So we got this piece, and I definitely want to join these, but that's not going to quite join. After all, it basically overlaps there. So what could I do? Trim it and get rid of that little piece. Now it looks like my floor is kind of getting in the way right now. So for the sake of argument, I'm just going to hide it real quick. That way I can trim this a little easier, and you can actually see what I'm doing. Sweet. So we definitely got that one going. And as you can see, I'm basically drawing it in 2D, but no longer on just the top plane. Now we can draw 2D in essentially this elevation view, right? All right, let's continue that drawing because that's not going to do so well. Let's complete it, right? So in my case, there's a couple ways I can complete this. I can basically add to that. I can go all the way up. Let's do that. And in my case, since I'm going to go with 4-foot stairs, I'm going to also do 4-foot landing. Not 4 inches, my bad. 4 feet, shift, sweet. And yeah, I might also want that 8 inches as well. So offset, and sorry, 6 inches, my bad. What could I do to get that to there? Anybody? Thank you, Emily. Extend, that's exactly right. So extend, and click on that one. We'll trim it, And voila. In our case, we'll take that 4-foot measurement right here, and it looks like it's perfectly perpendicular. Very good. So we'll take every single one of these pieces, including that little bottom piece right there, and we'll join them. Sweet. And you probably have guessed it, right? As soon as we got a complete and closed profile, and if you want to check, you can also click on something, type in what, enter, and it'll tell you actually if it's closed or open. In fact, it says valid curve, and it is a closed polyline. I do want to show you what to do though, however, if it's not closed. So, for instance, if I explode it, and let's say this line is just, I don't know, slightly off, right? Let's find that line. There it is. And let's say it was just slightly, ever so slightly off. Of course, I'm gonna have to like get it to be wrong. Hey, what's going on, Maya? Come on in. Right, I've got a little gap there, right, of course, between these two, and they're actually all exploded. So even if I do join them all and join them, you'll notice it's actually still closed. So for instance, oh, I accidentally moved that one way out of the way. Actually, that might work out. Command Z, because I can't mess up. Let's get rid of that real quick. But let's just pretend like, you know, I just kind of forgot that line, actually. Sorry, I'm trying to make mistakes on purpose. That way you guys can kind of know what to do. But as you can see, sometimes you can see them, right? Sometimes you can see quite literally, yeah, there's a gap, right? However, there's also close curve. So if you type in close, curve, enter, it's going to magically close that one little piece. And to be fair, sometimes that little piece is like microscopic. You can't even see it. So in this next step, it won't work, and it's usually because it's not a closed curve. So in this next step, as you may have guessed, we're just going to extrude it. Extrude curve, not explode, but not extend, but extrude. And as you can imagine, we can make this stair as large as we'd like. In our case, I'm going to lock it into 4 feet because that's what I designed it for. And just like that, voila, we already have a stair, right? However, I think most of the time, especially for the first time users, we usually just make a rectangle and we kind of Minecraft it, if you will, where there's kind of like a stair on the opposite side as well. But we do want to start to be a little bit more accurate, right? So don't get me wrong, this is probably the simplest stair, and I would recommend this stair to, you know, those of you who maybe haven't taken D1 yet. Start off simple, right? You don't have to get too crazy. However, if you're in D4, right, or D3, we're going to be expecting a little bit more, right? So let's continue drawing. And we can basically do it from here to the edge, right? So let's continue. In my case, let's go get 4 views involved and use our polyline. So let's go with the polyline. And this is what I mean by the fancy with the spices. So let's do 6 inches this time, enter, hold shift in that view. We'll do 12 again. And to be fair, I guess we could just copy that. But we'll copy. And we'll get to that edge. I can definitely check if I'm getting to that edge, and I think I went over. Yep, totally went over. We only need up to there. I think we will need one more riser, that's okay. 6 inches. And again, holding shift in the right view is key. So we'll put those together, join them. We'll hit F10, you know, for some of you that are, you know, a little bit more advanced. I'll take only the top ones. So in my case, I'll hold shift and take just those top dots. Kind of hard to see, especially in the recording, but I am essentially just taking those top dots. And I'm going to give it an inch, so I'm going to move them, type in move, enter, click, and I'm going to move it up an inch so I can get a little bit of that toe, what they call a toe kick. So inch, hold shift, enter. So I can get really fancy with it. Right? I mean, I could even get more detailed and really start to show the wood. I could really start to even inlay the concrete versus wood. And I'm not going to necessarily get into that today, but I do want to show you that clearly it starts with the drawing parts first, getting and establishing that profile. But, you know, What I'm trying to say also is this for the sake of tutorial. If you use one stair, kind of use the rest, right? Don't like make all these crazy different stairs because by the way, we're gonna make these. So you definitely want to be able to keep track and you don't necessarily want 12 different types of stairs. However, I'll go over definitely a few to make today, right? So we can exit on that one. That one's looking pretty sweet. We can use the same 6 inches. So I'm gonna just basically take that line, offset it 6 inches, 6 inches, and click it. We'll close that one, and in our case, we kind of want that guy to just kind of go directly to here. It looks like it's actually gonna line up, but not quite. I don't know. Might be a hard pass there. So I'm just gonna draw a line so that I can give it something to basically extend to. So just in case. Extend, and let's get, oh man, I was so close. You know what, I might fake it till I make it. I mean, why not? Boop. So as you can see, I kind of prefer that alignment anyway. And that's something they would probably do in real life anyway. It also could be because of the toe kick, so that might be why it's not going together. Again, not entirely wrong per se. But let's get the rest of that landing. So I'll go all the way over here. In my case, I don't want it to accidentally go all the way over there. So I'm just gonna go 3-dimensional view. And why not? We'll get that one too. I need one more line in there. Boop. And we'll basically take that profile. And as you can see, it's not quite closed. I wonder what it will do. So I'm going to join it, close curve. Voila. Gotta love close curve, man. You guessed it. We'll extrude it. And we'll put it to the other side. And just like that, we have an entire flight of stairs. Right? So again, arguably, I don't know, that would have taken me a whole day to just draft alone and figure out and you know, manipulate and test. And now, I mean, what's great is I can take the exact same piece, copy. I can take a certain known point, such as that one, and put it to where it needs to go. So in case, right there. I'm gonna take that piece, rotate it from the same point, hold shift to make it 90 degrees, and my goodness, I'm flying, aren't I? So again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel here, but keep in mind, this is also not what I necessarily want you to do, right? If you haven't taken D1 yet, you're welcome to give us the kind of natural spring that I'm gonna kind of do today. However, if you're one of my more advanced students, I do have a tutorial for us, not Daft Punk, of course. And it's kind of just a nice time-lapse video. I just kind of want to show you, just to kind of show you what I mean, that you can really explore with this project. I'll go ahead and turn off the sound for now. And this is really just essentially a time-lapse of me doing this entire project, but in the creative way that I want to, right? So as you can see, you can do a lot with this. I basically just made a sweep so that we can make a pyramid stair, and I'm about to go over the next part. So how we can push and pull in Rhino as well. So don't get me wrong, I'm making a lot of here. I mean, I've only required definitely one, but just in case you need to see it, it's stairs, ramps, and rails in Rhino 3D time-lapse. So I just wanted to make sure that was available and you kind of knew where it was. We won't necessarily watch the whole thing. So I'll pause that for now. And let's get into how I did some of that. So for instance, that pyramid shape, I just took the exact same profile. So I'm going to copy it. I'm going to put it on this side, just for reference really. And this one might be a little tricky, but it's essentially a sweep one, right? Except now my profile is the stair, right? So again, we use sweep one and sweep two for all kinds of things, and I definitely use it all the time in architecture, especially for things like this. So in my case, maybe I do want a pyramid stair, so I'm going to draw another polyline. I'm going to start by, and this will definitely force you to use more than just one view, or even just more than two. In my case, I'm going to select something. I'm going to hold shift, and I can get really fancy with the spices here, just to kind of show you what it does. Not that you have to do this, by the way. Keep in mind, I am not expecting everybody to get super fancy with the spices, and as you can see, I accidentally messed up myself. However, there's also another way to fix this. I can go to the top view, right? I can make 2D. And I can get that exact piece that I accidentally got not flat. So I'll delete this one. Anyway, obviously this is a tutorial, guys. I'm trying to show you that, you know, regardless if you messed up, turns out you really didn't. Right? Look at that. Fixed. And more or less exactly what I wanted to do. So now, just so you can see it better, let's sweep it. Sweep 1. Select the rail. In this case, that would be my rail. And the sweep shape, in our case, would be that stair shape. Enter. Enter again. And as you can see, it's not always going to work. Right? As you can see, it looks like it got a couple of the pieces. And maybe we can mess around with the settings. So set axes, close sweep. Well, close sweep's not going to work. Untrim ritters, no. Ah, and there you go. I just needed some untrim ritters. And just like that, I don't know about you, but that would have took me forever back in the day. I would have sat there, tried to make every layer, tried to make every little step, and arguably it wouldn't even have looked as this good, right? However, once you've gotten the preview, let's press sweep, and voila, right? We have this wonderful stair. And you're more than welcome to try this out. And to be fair, you can have more than just one stair going up, especially if you're in D3 or D4, or currently in D2. I mean, get fancy with the spices, why not? You can't even mess up. And even if you did, you could just take the whole thing and copy it. Anyway, that's a game changer, right, to say the very least. But before I get too excited about stairs, ramps, and rails, let's show you some more things that we can do. So we can also push and pull in this program, very similar to, say, SketchUp, and honestly Blender does this pretty well also. But it's called something different in Rhino. It's called Move Face. So you'll see something where it says Move. We got Move Curve, Move Edge, and Move Face. And what's kind of nice about that is I can select essentially any face and basically push and pull it out, or move it directly. So for instance, maybe I want a ramp. I don't know, a huge ramp. No, I'm just kidding. But you could potentially have a ramp as well. Now you want to find the correct view. In my case, I don't have the correct view, right? It's not working for this one. It's not working for that one. So maybe I need that left side or back side. Set view, get the left. And that's more or less a little bit better, but not exactly what I wanted. We can also extrude a face. So just to show you what we can do there. So extrude surface. Sorry, it's not extrude face, extrude surface. We'll take that one, and we basically push it out. Oh. Come on, man. Oh, am I accidentally doing it very tiny? No? Okay. Let's try that one more time. Maybe it got stuck on the last one. Extrude surface, yes. Enter. Oh, there we go. Could be my screen recording as well. But potentially this could be really useful as well. I mean, especially if I maybe want to decide where my ramp begins. So for instance, let's get fancy with the spices here. I don't really want you to go outside of the bounding box, but if you do, it's okay. Just make it only the landing. Don't try to make don't be a hero, try and make a whole stair outside of, you know, the structure itself. Keep in mind, we're gonna build these. So the more difficult you make it in a digital model, the more difficult it will be to produce it in real life. And sometimes that's just fun to learn kind of on your own. I definitely did. So, however, if you need to take it back, Move Face could also be used. Right? So we can do Move Face. So if there's anything to write down today, it's definitely Move Face and Extrude Surface. Okay? But we can potentially move this back as well. So maybe we want exactly 4 feet. So I'm going to go with 4 feet, hold shift, and voila. I'm going to move that face up because I do want to show you how to make a ramp, at least in 2 different ways. The best way I think to make a ramp is the simple way, so just moving the face up, 6 inches, 12 inches, depending on how long this is. And maybe we need to know how long it is. So I'm going to do DIM for dimension, not move dimension, but dimension. I'm going to click on 2 points. And voila, 10 feet, or 10 units. And I know that my units are in feet, So I do have 10. So DIM is a game changer, especially if you're in a studio and your professor, I mean, let's face it, how many times have they said, how long is that? How short is that? How big is that? This question comes up a lot. And now you can simply just type DIM and get that dimension. So knowing that we have 10 feet, and if we want to stick to that 1 to 12 rule, we're going to fake it till we make it. And we're just going to go up a foot, even though it should be 12 feet in order to go up that foot. Anyway, practice perfect, not what I preach, however that saying goes. But in my case, let's move that face up. So move face. We'll select this one. And I'll go to that different view. That way I can, that actually seems like a pretty good view. I just moved that up 6 inches. So enter, click, and I'm gonna move that 6 inches. So 6 inches, enter, hold shift, and voila, just like that, I've got a ramp. But as you guessed it, we can also draw it and extrude it, right? So for instance, maybe I wanted to draw that a little bit more technical. I can get a polyline involved and quite literally draw that ramp. Right, so there's nothing wrong with extruding that, but keep in mind you're going to get a weird triangular situation. So I would have to offset that. So for instance, exploded, and as you can see, there's a lot more steps than just moving the face. So in my case, offset maybe 6 inches, right? And arguably, yeah, I could do it this way, but again, there's usually 15 different ways to do the exact same thing. But as you can see, I'm basically drawing. So trim, getting rid of things I don't need in order to make that profile. Join, close curve, and voila. Oh, close curve doesn't always work, does it? Especially if it's not connected. But it does try its best, right? So let's edit undo, not a big deal. Trim that off as well. But as you can see, this is like 30 more steps, right, than just moving the face. So do keep that in mind. But I will show you both. That way, potentially, you can do both. And for, don't get me wrong, there's all kinds of situations that happen in architecture. And that's pretty good, right? We'd extrude that 4 feet. And voila. Not too shabby. But again, arguably the exact same thing, but this one took 30 clicks and that one took 2. So time is money. However, let's continue. Let's get fancy with the spices and go over some more things that we can do with stamps. In my case, I like to do for the tutorial to get all the way to the top. So I'm going to kind of fake it a little bit and go a little bit faster. Now that we've gone over some of the techniques, let's go ahead and extrude that surface. Sweet. Bam. And you can also align to other things, even 3-dimensional space. So that is kind of nice, right? Not too shabby. Hey, I've got a landing. Very good. Let's work smarter, not harder. So I'm going to take this one, copy. I'm going to take a point that is known. That is a really good way of saying it. Like, for instance, that's a better known point than this known point. And you'll see what I mean. So I'll take that known point, rotate, and basically just put it on the next step. I'll rotate that. And I kind of want that inside the other one. Well, why? That way I don't end up with this kind of weird triangle. And what could I do to get rid of that last one? Boolean split, Boolean difference, right? So I could take that one and that one. Boolean split. Enter. And voila, we can get rid of that silly little piece. Now, technically it's still there, right? I mean, you kind of need something there. So in my case, I'll put those 3 together. So Boolean union. Voila. So again, kind of using 2D and 3D at the same time to, of course, manipulate and put those together. However, once you're in a rendered view, you don't see any of those lines. So totally fine. Oh, I thought my mouse died. Thank goodness. What a horrible time for your mouse to die. But as you can see, those lines don't make a huge difference anyway, right? You can't really see them, especially in the rendering. However, once we make 2D, they definitely will show. So, also, it's like the intensity of the sun is like, oh my god. I don't know what I did with my settings, but I do like to check those things. But let's get all the way to the top. Let's get fancy with the spices. I mean, why not? Extrude surface. Bam. And I don't know. Maybe I want some sort of landing here. Maybe it goes up here. Take that same piece and go out 10 feet. Maybe I have a sweet little landing before I keep continuing up. I mean, why not? Also, let's work smarter, not harder. So I'm going to copy that one. Again, another known point. So I'm going to go with that one. Ooh, it doesn't look like I quite got that one lined up. So that's not a great known point because it's not lined up so well. All right, that went a little bit over. And that's okay. I can extrude that face to fix that. So there's a good known point. And there's a good known point right there. And let's rotate that guy. RO for rotate. I'll take the exact same point usually that I copy with and basically flip that around. In my case, I just need to move that over. So M for move. And voila. But as you can imagine, we can kind of continue going or we can chill, right? And enjoy the view, right? Not too shabby. Getting pretty crazy, and as you can see, it's defying the laws of gravity, right? I mean, well, it's not a law. It's a theory because there's several theories of gravity. But it is a phenomenon we definitely experience. Really, it's relative density, but I digress. In our case, let's get to the top though, and for the sake of tutorial and speed, let's go a little bit faster. Copy. And we'll just kind of go up in a spiral right now. Luckily, we have so many copies that we've almost got all the right directions, so we don't necessarily need to rotate anymore. But as you can see, the name of the game is definitely getting to the top. And this is definitely what I meant for my D1 users. You can definitely simplify it. You don't have to get too crazy if you don't want to. But if you want to challenge yourself, you're more than welcome. Nothing wrong with that. Boop. This one, I guess you could mirror this as well, but in my case, I'm just going to rotate it. I'm always holding shift, right? Especially for those true 90 degrees, just in case. Sometimes I forget to call those things out. I do apologize. I sometimes watch other YouTube users. I get pointers for sure. All right, it looks like we can actually take all three, couldn't we? All right, get to the top. So copy, known point. Ooh, that one's hard to see. There we go. Boop. Nailed it. Are we at the top? Ooh, we went a little over. It's probably okay. But if it's not okay with our professor, what do we do? Well, we should probably close that. Cap. Boom. Which means these are probably all not capped. Cap those. Sweet. They won't go together. If I want a Boolean union, that definitely won't go together if it's an open object. So let's cap that as well. I guess I forgot one of my pieces. I'm not sure. But let's Boolean union those. After all, they're already good to go. Boolean union. Sweet. Now it's a solid piece. You can even take that piece, and this piece, and that piece, and this piece, and that piece, and this piece. And of course do the exact same thing. History warning. Oh man, I broke history. I've never seen that warning before. Anyway, learn something new every day. Basically, I think what it's telling me is I can't necessarily go back now. Oh, I guess I still can. I'm not sure what that message is about, actually. Okay. I'm going to take a screenshot so I can look that up later. Anyway. All right, let's continue. So we got some stairs. It goes all the way to the top. And for the sake of tutorial and the fact that we only have 14 minutes left, let's go over how we'd get some rails. Actually, it's super easy. We'll use the exact same polyline. And in my case, I do want a new layer that we can see. And we'll call it rails. Let's go with a color that's pretty good against gold or orange. We'll go with, I don't know, I love the word lavender, but it's so hard to see. We'll go with purple or magenta today. And all we have to do is trace it. It's actually kind of nice. So I'll type in polyline and quite literally trace the stairs. So in my case, what I mean by that is, oh, let's make sure we're in that layer. Try again. And essentially trace it. So we'll go all the way to the top. Now this is where it's going to get kind of tricky, and if you've ever seen any handrails, especially in public, you get kind of all these kind of weird shapes. It's definitely okay, and especially for this project. To be fair, you'll notice in all these models, there's something missing. Rails. Because they're nearly impossible to make at a 1/8 scale. And to be fair, no studio ever is even going to tell you to make rails. However, we definitely show them in drawings. So, I mean, might as well model it. So in my case, again, just tracing it. As you can see, really just taking the endpoints of our stairs. See, this is where it's going to hurt me, right? I forgot to get that. Well, let's end it here and show you how to fix it. Enter. Can you guys guess? I can either move the face, this one, or extrude it. Honestly, both will work, right? So in my case, I'm just going to extrude. Oh, it's going to turn it into a new object, though. But not if I Boolean union them. Voila. So let's continue that polyline. We'll start from that same point and just continue tracing. Yep, even the rails will trace them. So you might want that break, is what we call that in architecture. And basically just spinning around the model, as you can see. And it really is proficient to get it all in one piece, as you'll slowly see what I mean. In my case, I'm going to get really fancy here, just because I chose some interesting designs. And again, this is where near is absolutely dangerous. Make sure near is off, because, I mean, shoot. I mean, I could accidentally hit this way down here, so be very careful. There's my endpoint. And to be fair, usually actually if you turn some stuff off, it does make that a little bit more precise. Because now it only has one to choose rather than a million. So in my case, I'm going now to the other side. And yes, it is true. I will have to trace both sides of my handrails. Aw, man, there's my mistake again. This is what I get for copying my mistakes. It's okay. As you guys know, we'll enter and just fix that. We'll do this one with the move now, right? As you can see, maybe let's test for ourselves which one's easier. Move face, this one. I'll move it from this point to that point. Arguably, I'm not exactly confident in that move, but let's go for it. Again, let's go back to polyline. Ooh, I forgot to cap that. Let's cap it. Sweet. Polyline. And continue that trace. Man, my mistakes just catching up with me today. I'm gonna fake it till I make it. Why not? Nobody can stop me. But again, for the sake of tutorial, I'm basically faking that little error. But you should, of course, know exactly what to do. In my case, I'm just holding shift and maintaining that perpendicularness. Hopefully that's a word. I don't think it is. But if you do happen to have too many stairs, what could I do? Wire cut it right off and start there, right? However, for the sake of tutorial, I'm just going to keep going because we're almost out of time. Oh my gosh, that rail's going to be off. Can I undo? Yes. Oh my gosh, back in the day you could not do that. You'd have to start over. Very similar to Photoshop. But you can do edit undo while inside of a polyline command. That is great news. People everywhere saving 30 seconds in time. But as you can see at the top, I can actually go all the way back down. All right. As you can see, a very strange observation tower we have today. Or I should say vertical circulation of a observation tower, because it's not quite an observation tower yet. Don't get me wrong, we're going to refine it and refine it and refine it just like we do in Studio. Holy! Anyway, okay, there we go. And that's what I mean. Sometimes you'll make mistakes. That's all right. In fact, I've learned much more from my mistakes in life than I ever did my success. So fail, not on purpose anyway, but fail and be proud of it. Take it as actually, I'm about to learn something. rather than I actually messed up. Honestly, I think if we just think about what we're doing differently, we'd start really changing some things in the world. For instance, if we just change the textbooks, shoot, give it 10 years and everybody would know something different, wouldn't they? On another story, why is Ghislaine Maxwell's father the publisher for all the textbooks? Stay tuned on today's episode of America. But as you can see, I'm even also tracing that weirdness that we had. So, going as fast as possible also. So I'm getting a little quiet. I talk too much. But as you can see, now we're done. And it's all one piece, beautifully. Well, almost. I forgot, we had some starts and stops. So let's go ahead and put those together and join them. And as long as they're touching, voila, we got that nice solid yellow line. Now, as you can imagine, we could take that, and if you know anything, of course, from Graphics 1 or Graphics 2, we know that we need at least 4 inches of space. It's the ball test, right? Escamilla usually talks about it. But it's so that infants, of course, I don't know why they're alone by the stairs, but there's a 4-inch difference there. So in our case, I'm going to copy it because I don't necessarily want to get rid of the first one. I'm going to hit 4 inches, shift, and click. Awesome. So I could get rid of that one, but I kind of want that one because I need also my handrail. So I'm going to copy again. This time click and 36 inches because our handrails are about 3 feet, right? Depending on what country you're in. And as you can imagine, we almost even have a wireframe of that so far. You guys see that? Kind of looks like rails already. What could we do to make them look like rails immediately? Take it, pipe it, and let's go with a radius. Usually a handrail is about 2 inches in diameter, so we're going to go with a 1-inch radius and a 1-inch radius end. Now this one might take a little while. Oh, went pretty quick. Holy mackerel. You know how long this would take me in Graphics 1? So again, what a game changer. What a time saver, to say the very least. But let's take a look at the rendered view. And my goodness, it's even calculated all the shadows. But right now, kids are going to fall everywhere, right? We got floating rails, and we can't let that happen. So let's go back to shaded and get a couple more copies. We'll take this one, and we'll offset them or just make copies that are 4 inches apart. So in my case, I could just do this all day. 8 inches, 12 inches. Obviously, it starts from the previous one, so 16 inches, 20 inches. Oh, not 20 feet. Shift, every single time holding shift, by the way. I forget to call those things out sometimes. 24 inches, shift, and 30 inches. Oh, not 30 feet. Let's get that last one. I probably don't need that last one, but that's okay. Yeah, it seems a little off, doesn't it? Anyway, let's take that again, copy, and go with 4 inches. That's your most basic rail in architecture that meets code, right? And you probably see this handrail all the time, whether it be wire or sometimes actually glass or just metal rods. So let's get all of those, right? We can get them all in one swoop. We'll pipe it or sweep it, so we can actually control the handrails. So if you want, I mean, a really cool handrail is definitely Louis Kahn, right? Where he used to use these C-shapes for his handrails. You could sweep that, right? You get a very unique handrail immediately. Keep in mind, we're not going to actually make the handrails, so you can get as fancy with those as you like. Or many handrails are often like this, somewhat rounded. Now, of course, I'm showing you like the section view. Right? So, just kind of draw that out. But you'd absolutely take this as your profile for that sweep, right? And then, of course, the sweep would, of course, fall, right? In my case, I'm just going to pipe them for the sake of tutorial. But you could get fancy with the spices. In my case, let's pipe it. It would be slightly smaller, so I'm going to go with like a 1/4 inch radius and a 1/4 inch Now this one might take a while, and as you saw, it did take a little bit. And voila! Look at that. It's pretty. Anyway, we're not quite finished yet. They are still kind of magically holding themselves up. So we need to make what is known as a baluster, which is kind of what's going on there, right? Now keep in mind, you shouldn't have anything like this because I've done so many different little things in here, right? And to be fair, I forgot even some of the cool stairs I wanted to show you. We just don't have the time today. However, I'll do a part 2 of this one on Tuesday. But for the sake of time, we do have 2 minutes. Are there any questions about what we've gone over so far, or want me to make something in particular? Just want to check. For the most part, pretty understandable. Sculpt some stairs. But keep in mind, we don't necessarily want to worry about exercise 3 on this one. Don't like plan for it, don't prepare for it in any way. We'll get there, right? Especially in exercise 5. But I often feel like it actually is almost a deterrent. It slows down the stair process when you're trying to do it all at once, right? Especially if you don't have the experience of doing that yet. So get fancy with the spices, make some stairs. And of course, there's also some examples myself making those stairs as well. And actually, I go over those baluster parts in an extremely fast way. So that is available too. So, no questions though, guys?
So just making stairs, without considering
Correct. Which is why you kind of want to do that first. That way you can get fancy. I mean, you're in D4. You could probably do kind of both at the same time. But don't put them together yet. They are within the same volume though, so that same 30 by 30 by 50. Good question. Anything else, guys? We'll leave it here for the recording today.